Today we're privileged to have a conversation with Ron Kiernicki, head women's coach, soccer coach here at St. Mary of the Woods, interim men's coach, wear all the hats.
Yeah.
And St. Mary of the Woods College is located in St. Mary of the Woods, Indiana, just west of Terre Haute, Indiana. Mm-hmm. You're in a IA school.
Yep. One of the best kept secrets.
One of the best kept secrets in Indiana.
I'm quoting Coach Blaine Powell,
yeah,
by the way.
You are the oldest Catholic school in the state of Indiana.
Yep, 1840.
In 1840. I'd like to get in that a little bit later. Right now, I want to know something about you because I understand that your goal when you were a senior in high school was to run track and to play football.
Yep.
And that you were a good athlete.
Yeah.
Never happened.
No.
Were you good at track and football?
Yeah. I was a multi-sports athlete. So I was running track my senior year, only year I ran it, and I was very successful long jump. Set the long jump record. I want to say it's 22 3/4. It still stands at Northview to this day. I think Casey Gasway tied me with the long jump record. Went to state. One of the first, because at that time we were transitioning from Brazil to Northview High School. So I was one of the first athletes to go to a state competition. So that was exciting for me. And in football, I'd moved recently from Calumet City to Brazil, Indiana for my senior year. And in Calumet City, I was a quarterback. So it was a little bit of a transition. And Coach Anderson said, Kiernicki, you're not going to be a quarterback. I want you to try different things. And I ended up having the time of my life. I played all over, tight end, defensive end, safety, punt return. I was the punter. Kick return. I was the punter. Wide receivers at times. So it was a great season for me. Senior year, we went to sectionals at Mooresville. It was I would never forget that. It was snow on the ground. It was when you're a kid, you love that kind of game. Went to multiple overtimes, and Mooresville ended up beating us in that game. But great memories.
So you had goal to go to college.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
No.
You fell in love with the guitar?
I did. Well, I was sore. The high jump was really hurting my back my senior year. So I think the idea was to sit out for a year and then go to college after I got my body back in shape because I was pretty banged up. I was a skateboarder, so I was doing all kinds of
You're telling
extreme
me you were
sports.
An athlete.
I was an athlete, but I rode my skateboard to practice. So I was really extreme sports kind of guy. So really banged up, but yeah, sat out. And during that year of sitting out, I started playing guitar, which I still do to this day, and fell in love with it. So I started becoming a musician, and I ended up traveling around the country a little bit. Stayed in Colorado for a stint. In my 20s. Yeah, no, I loved it. It was great. They got the mountain range out there. It was a little soul-searching adventure,
So how many years did you chase the music industry?
Well, I did that for about 10 years, and then I started, wasn't kind of getting what I wanted out of it. So we started doing a thing called Rock for Brazil, where a lot of the networks that we had made as friends over the year, all the bands, we kind of thought, well, let's get a thing going and we'll raise some money and give it back to the local community. We was successful. I think we raised almost $30,000 in the 4 Rock for Brazils that we had. Gave it to MS was one of the fundraising events, and then a local friend had passed away, and we raised money and gave it to his children. Another friend had a husband passed away, so we helped raise funds and gave it to them for their adventures, and it was great. And then eventually that board sort of dissipated, so that was kind of my last stint with music at that point. So now I just kind of sit in my basement and play.
Okay, that track, football,
yep,
rock band. How in the world did you get into soccer?
Well, I got to give all the credit to my wife because our oldest boy was 4 years old, Tristan, and I was like, he's going to play football. She said, no, he's going to play soccer. And so there we go. And then by the time he was 9 or 10, I kind of wanted to start coaching him. And so we went down that road. Man, memory lane here, by the way. And so that led to one thing led to another, to where I started getting my licensing and my education, chasing down all that. You know, U.S. soccer licensing was a challenge, but something I was reading and studying every night. Ended up getting my F license, my E license, and a D license, and just fell in love with the game. I started playing it. Started playing at Twin Lakes Indoor Premier League there, basically playing against the IU college guys when they were off season. So that was a challenge for me. Then went to the CIASA, started playing in that amateur league up there in Indianapolis. And the whole time I'm coaching either at youth level or at some level, eventually started coaching at Northview.
Well, you talked about the youth level. You started the youth program in Clay County.
Yep.
The soccer youth league.
Yep.
And then while this was all going on, you decided to get a college education.
Yeah. At one point I was managing multiple restaurants with NPC International, which was 50 to 60 hours of time, and coaching high school at Northview, managing Clay Youth Soccer Club, which was a huge adventure. It was all volunteer. So I was executive director of that, founder of that, and then coaching multiple teams in that, and chasing my master's degree at Excelsior College.
And not only that, but you guys, you had your travel teams.
Yeah.
And you started a soccer academy, I understand.
Yeah, did that as well. Yeah, you've done your research. Yeah, Trish Jack Soccer Academy, which was successful. Had a couple of good successful years in that.
So, and you fell in love, obviously, with the sport, because you're enamored with the sport. I mean, to the nth degree, as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm a student of the game.
Little history before we talk about your current situation. St. Mary of the Woods, founded, like as we said, in 1840 by 6 French nuns. Mm-hmm. Theodore Guerin was the leader of the group. By default, she didn't want to, even though she was a renowned educator. But she led the group of 5 nuns, established a girls' academy to educate the girls on the frontier. Because once again, this was 1840. Mm-hmm. Flourished, very successful. Has become a college. It was a girls' school up until
about 6 years
2005.
Oh, okay.
It became co-ed, and for the 2006 year, I think. And that was the same year that she was canonized and became a saint. So now here you are on your road, finding your identity, and you're at the home of a saint.
Right, loving it. Well, and I was born and raised Catholic, so kind of felt full circle coming here. But let's not forget, I was commentating college soccer games with you, right? And as a matter of fact, we were here commentating a men's game and women's game, and we had then interviewed Deanna, the AD at the time, and it was in that interview process that we discovered the exponential growth that was about to happen here. Right. And I remember during that interview thinking, wow, it would be great to be able to be a part of this. And here we are.
Yeah, Deanna's vision was going to grow the school through sports.
Yeah.
And has done so, and it's been very successful for the school.
Oh, yeah.
You've been here 2 years.
3.
This is your 3rd.
Yeah.
Your first year as assistant coach.
Yep.
And then you were an interim coach. Now you're head coach of the girls' soccer, interim coach of the boys' soccer.
Yep.
You get another hat you want to wear?
I would put another one on, I think, if they offered it, for sure. It's, as a coach, you always want to raise the bar for yourself, especially if you're doing something you love to do. So I'm clearly passionate about the game. So yeah, I think one hat at a time for now. I realized after I was able to calm down, got the master's degree, stepped away from the club, you don't realize all the things you're doing when you've got that much going on. And so I was able to sit back and take a deep breath and spend some family time. So really the last 4 or 5 years has been...
you got a wife and 3 kids.
Yeah, man, I didn't know that until a couple of years ago. So that was a blessing in disguise, So when NPC went bankrupt and I was left without a job. And so I was working here, was my only gig for a while. And here we are now with this great opportunity for me to grow. I feel blessed. I love it here.
But you're facing a little bit of a conflict because you can't be head coach of the girls and head coach of the boys at the same time because of conflicts of scheduling and conflicts postseason.
You would think that would be the case, but so non-conference games, so we're in discussions, both parties have concerns. It's a possibility that I would like to take on both programs.
I think it would be great. No one loves soccer more than you do.
Well, you might be telling the truth. But
I've heard you say several times, it's a beautiful game.
It is, man, and I love being a part of it. It was so creative. I mean, in other sports you get those timeouts and those time to figure out what you want to do. Soccer's not that way. You've got to figure that out on the fly, and it gets a lot of mathematics involved in all of that. But I think at the end of the day, managing both programs, I mean, that's a great privilege and honor to be able to oversee the future of soccer here at the Woods. What a great responsibility that would be. So I'm excited about the opportunity to potentially take on that role. But there are, as you noted, some potential conflicts there. Non-conference games, the weight of the schedules are different for each team, so we won't be traveling the same place. Now, once conference games start, we go to the same place. We go to only team. IU Kokomo doesn't have a men's team, but for the most part, we would go there so towards the end of the season. So,
the school's transition is facing a transition starting this year. It's already been NAIA for 1 year.
Oh yeah.
And that's a change too. But you're impacting a lot of young people's lives, both male and female.
Yeah.
And what's the impact that you're having on the school as far as you're the new head coach, okay?
Yeah.
What changes are you making in the team, in the style of play, and is the impact different between the male and the female?
That's great questions. There's a lot in there to unpack. So once I got to this level, you like to say it's not all about the wins and losses, especially as a youth coach, because it's not. That's a byproduct, a result of the hard work you're putting in. So you start coming up with a formula for how you're going to recruit. And so I had a great Coach Henry was a wonderful coach, and so I was able to learn under him a lot. And through that process, you really gather there's 3 big pillars you want to recruit on to build. So character being the top one. You have to bring in great character. You don't want to disturb the force that you're trying to go forward with. The work ethic is another thing. So their GPA, where they're at, that's extremely important. And then their fitness level. This level of play is extremely demanding. They're going to be stressed out from classes and the challenges that they have there. So you've got to really sift through the recruits the right way, start relationships early. And then you want to bring in someone who's going to be coachable on top of all that. So you don't want an athlete who's going to come in and just know it all and not really want to learn and grow. So I had devised a Pillars of Leadership program where I just expect each athlete to take on a leadership role. It's not going to trump the captain, but they need to get engaged in the community. They need to do something that's for someone else besides themselves. So I hold them all to that standard and then make the details matter. So that's for both sides. Now it's going to be different on both sides, of course. Women are a little more detailed than men. They are a little more cleanly in a lot of areas. And on the men's side, they're just, when you're coaching those 2 dynamics, the speed of play for the men is extremely fast. It's way different than the ladies. So there's the training sessions. You've got to respect the game and how it is performed and how you're going to bring that weight to those athletes. But at the end of the day, it's their training culture, and I let them know that. It's not mine. I'll set the stage, and they perform. And so we're constantly asking them to take us to another level. And what we don't want is for the new recruiting class to come in and have them set the training culture, which we had kind of seen because we had a lot of turnover. This is the first year, by the way, we haven't had a huge turnover on the women's side. We have 90% of our class coming back. So we're extremely excited about that. So now we're going to start seeing sustainability in that culture. And the men's side, it's an international team, so the communication culture and all of that is extremely important. So there's just different nuances on each side that you really got to pay attention to, manage it, not micromanage. I hate micromanaging that stuff. So put the aces in their places on each team, let the leaders step up and take the job.
Individual responsibility of the player.
Yep. I mean, that's what you're creating, great people. That's what you really want to do, and what a better way to do that than give them leadership responsibilities.
Okay, along that line, how is the recruitment for you?
Oh, it's great. It's looking great.
Well,
I mean,
but you talked about this, the big secret. Are you getting the word out, or are they becoming more and more aware of St. Mary of the Woods?
I think it's both. Word of the, as the NAIA was a huge, impactful, you got the two big governing bodies right there, NCAA, NAIA. We compete at that D2 level, and so that's attractive to students, and so especially on the men's side, I get men athletes reaching out to me all the time saying, Coach, I've watched your program, I want to be a part of it. The women's side a little more challenging because it's hard to get the international scope. Ladies want to stay closer to home on that recruiting aspect, and I think for the ladies, I hate to categorize it like this, but they really, D1, D2 matters more than playtime. I think for, you go D1, D2, you're going to sit the bench likely for the first couple of years, it might be a junior year before you see playtime. NAIA, if you can come in and you're going to be impactful your freshman year, you'll play. And we've got 50-60% of our freshmen starting, and they're successful, both teams. So yeah, that word spreads quickly. And then of course, we are now, like on the women's side, I've got Coach Hauger, who's a wonderful coach, and he's helping me with the 23s, and he's also reached out to the 24s, so we're starting to create that relationship earlier. And Coach Jorgensen is working with the 25s and 26s, and that's what we're kind of hoping to do with the men's program as well. So starting that relationship earlier is going to be key for the future of recruiting for us.
Now, you've mentioned a couple times on the men's team the international aspect of it. How are you making contact with the international student?
Agents. So you connect with, Kees Hammerling, for example, out of the Netherlands. He was a pro player. He's now an agent, helping Netherlands kids, Dutch kids come over. So I just connect with them, Pablo Ortiz, or different guys from agents from different parts of the world. And they send me, I tell them what our standards are, what their budget would need to be, and they send me the likely candidates, and they're usually really top-notch candidates.
Yeah, we see this in basketball, particularly D1 basketball, where some very fundamentally strong players come over here to get an education and play in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Is it the same thing with soccer, coming to the United States to get the exposure, to get the training, to get the playing time?
Yeah, and I think it's a little different in soccer because soccer's that international game.
Right.
So you're getting...
You typically think that soccer's stronger in Europe than it is here, but they're wanting to send their kids here.
They do. You're right. You're spot on with that. And as a matter of fact, I've got 5 guys from UK who are coming. They're pretty much verbally committed. They're just waiting for their in-cred to go through, the process they got to go through with the NAIA. Very talented guys. They're very, very talented, but you're right. They want to come over here, get their education over here, but they're also, their hopes are to go to the pro level over here, and then that is probably their next move to the next level for them in their home country.
Wow. No burden, right? It's easy.
No, it's
anybody can do that.
It's all about relationships, man. You just got to create those good relationships and be very transparent. I think is important. You don't want to give any false hope, especially to a student athlete. So you're going to be transparent with them and let them know. But you also you've got this great challenge of giving. Every athlete's different, so you've got to be able to sit down. I do 1v1 calls with each of those athletes. I do 8 throughout the year, so I can learn more about them and their growth, and then I can, in those calls, give them constructive criticism on where they need to go as an athlete, and that could be anything from character to performance or classroom, GPA, whatever it might be.
Wow.
Yeah.
The things that we don't see whenever we're watching a sport.
Yeah. Well, that's again, the details matter. you're just, I mean, the better you can make a person, that starts to become addictive and attractive, and that's what you want. And it kind of weeds out the stuff that becomes a distraction. And then if you got those distractions, stress, nerves, all of that, that takes 30% of your energy away as an athlete. So it's important to make sure you're building them up with their high morale.
Okay, now I'm going to take a curve on you.
All right, I'm ready.
Because you came to coaching through a different route, much more common working man attitude, background, before you got your education, before you even got into soccer, because you didn't play soccer as a kid.
Right.
That being the case, has that benefited you, not by doing this around the corner type, meandering, experiencing the world, and then now becoming a coach? Has that benefited you? And
that's a great question, Tony. I mean, I know I would never change anything that I've done, because that's helped build my character and who I've become as a leader. Yeah. And I've always been a kid growing up who had to have multiple things going on at once. I like having my plate full, several plates full, several irons in the fire. I've just always been that kind of guy. So it's hard to answer that question, to be honest. I don't, had I taken a traditional pathway, like when in my college degree was, maybe sports management, and then found myself, working through the ranks that way, I don't think I would have been the coach I am today. So yeah, I think it was imperative for me to, look, creating Clay Youth Soccer Club was not easy. That was extremely difficult, and it took 5 years of volunteer family time. I mean, I was committing so much volunteer time in that, it was ridiculous. But it was at the end of that, I realized, looking back, I didn't realize what I was doing was being a leader. I just did it because I was, trying to impact my son's life, and I fell in love with the game along the way, and then realized that, you can change lives, not just in the student athlete, but now you can educate parents and coaches. And at that time, soccer was not a huge deal in our country. It was a growing sport. It still is, really. But so to make that impact there, that changed who I was. And I think that, and then coaching Northview, had a really good, successful run there. Then it was, I think then I realized, okay, I need to continue my education as far as soccer, keep getting my licensing, because I did want to coach. I knew then at Northview that I wanted to coach collegiately, and that's when I continued to try and push forward from there. So that was 2013. So
yeah, relatively
10
close.
Years.
Yeah, it hadn't been that long.
Yeah, so within the last 10 years, it was up until about 3 years ago that I finally got that goal achieved. So yeah, I think that pathway made me who I am for sure today. I'm not sure I'd be here if I had not taken those crazy around the bush runs, I just can't ride my skateboard and just practice anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Ron Kiernicki, head coach of soccer, St. Mary of the Woods College. The look at the man, the look at the college. Nice conversation. We appreciate it, Ron.
Thanks, man. Good luck.
This program is a copyrighted production of Indiana Sports Network and cannot be shown, reproduced, or redistributed in any way or in any form without prior written permission from Indiana Sports Network.